Welcome to Health 2660. Here, we don't just talk about health. We tell the stories that heal. Now please listen to the story. Evelyn, at 67, felt like a faded photograph of her former self. The vibrant hues of her youth had been replaced with a muted, almost sepia-toned reality. Each morning, she awoke not with anticipation, but with a bone-deep weariness that seemed to cling to her like a second skin. Her reflection in the antique vanity mirror, a relic from her grandmother, was a constant reminder of the passage of time and the relentless march of age. The lines around her eyes, once etched by laughter and sunlight, now seemed deeper, heavier, etched by something more profound. A silent, persistent exhaustion. Her belly, perpetually bloated, felt like a leaden weight, dragging her down with each step. It didn't matter what she ate. A simple salad, a carefully portioned piece of grilled chicken, or even just a cup of chamomile tea. The bloating persisted, a constant, uncomfortable companion. She'd tried everything: probiotics, digestive enzymes, eliminating gluten, lactose, even FODMAPs, following the advice of countless online articles and well-meaning friends. But nothing seemed to offer lasting relief. The doctors, after a series of tests and examinations, had delivered the same dismissive diagnosis: age-related slowing down. They attributed her symptoms to the natural decline of bodily functions, the inevitable consequence of growing older. "It's all perfectly normal, Evelyn," they'd said, patting her hand with a mixture of reassurance and condescension. "You're just getting older. Try to get more rest, eat a balanced diet, and perhaps consider a gentle exercise routine." But deep inside, Evelyn knew it was more than just getting older. There was a nagging intuition, a quiet voice whispering in the back of her mind, telling her that something was fundamentally wrong. It wasn't just the physical symptoms. It was the profound lack of energy, the inability to focus, the feeling of being trapped inside a body that felt alien and unresponsive. She missed the Evelyn who used to wake up with a spring in her step, eager to embrace the day. She missed the Evelyn who could spend hours gardening her hands, digging in the soil, feeling the life force of the earth coursing through her veins. She missed the Evelyn who could lose herself in a good book, transported to other worlds and other times by the power of words. Now, even simple tasks felt like monumental efforts. Reading more than a few pages left her feeling drained and mentally exhausted. Her beloved garden, once her sanctuary, had become a source of guilt, a constant reminder of her diminished capacity. Her skin, once smooth and radiant, had taken on a dull, almost grayish pallor. She tried countless anti-aging creams, serums, and lotions, diligently applying them each morning and evening, hoping to recapture some of her youthful glow. But the products, despite their extravagant claims and hefty price tags, offered only fleeting, superficial improvements. The underlying dullness remained a reflection of the deeper malaise she felt within. One sweltering summer afternoon, as Evelyn sat on her porch, listlessly watching the hummingbirds flitting around the feeder, her granddaughter Lily came to visit. Lily, a bright and vivacious young woman in her early 20s, had always been a source of joy and inspiration for Evelyn. She possessed a boundless energy and an infectious enthusiasm for life that Evelyn found both admirable and slightly envious. Lily was a passionate advocate for healthy living, always experimenting with new diets, exercise routines, and mindfulness practices. She spoke often about the importance of nourishing the body and mind, of listening to one's intuition, and of embracing a holistic approach to wellness. Lily sat down beside Evelyn on the porch swing, her eyes filled with concern. "Grandma, you don't seem yourself," she said, her voice soft and gentle. "You seem tired and a little sad." Evelyn sighed, her gaze fixed on the swaying branches of the old oak tree in her front yard. "Oh, Lily, it's just old age catching up with me," she said, her voice tinged with resignation. "The doctors say it's all perfectly normal, just a natural part of the aging process." Lily frowned, unconvinced. "But Grandma, you shouldn't just accept that," she said, her voice firm but loving. "There are things you can do to feel better. You don't have to let age define you." She rummaged in her tote bag and pulled out a small, unassuming notebook. She handed it to Evelyn, her eyes sparkling with hope. "Read this," she said simply. Evelyn took the notebook, her fingers tracing the worn cover. She opened it and saw 3 words written in bold black marker. "Try quitting sugar." Evelyn stared at the words, her brow furrowed in confusion. "Quitting sugar," she repeated, her voice laced with skepticism. "But I don't eat that much sugar, Lily. A little in my coffee, a pastry now and then. It's not like I'm eating candy bars all day long." Lily smiled patiently. "It's not just about candy bars, Grandma," she explained. "Sugar is hidden in so many processed foods, even things you wouldn't expect. Bread sauces, yogurt, it all adds up. And sugar can have a really negative impact on your health, especially as you get older. It can contribute to inflammation, fatigue, brain fog, weight gain, all the things you've been complaining about." Evelyn considered Lily's words, a flicker of curiosity igniting within her. She had nothing to lose, she reasoned. The doctors hadn't offered any real solutions, and she was desperate to feel better. "Okay, Lily," she said, her voice resolute. "I'll try it. I'll try quitting sugar." The first 3 days were brutal. Evelyn had underestimated the extent to which sugar had infiltrated her diet, and the hold it had on her body. The cravings hit her like a tidal wave, a relentless gnawing hunger that seemed to originate from the deepest recesses of her being. She felt irritable, anxious, and constantly on edge. She snapped at her husband George over a missing candy dish, a petty outburst that she immediately regretted. George, a patient and understanding man, simply smiled and offered her a hug. "It's okay, Evelyn," he said, his voice soothing. "You can do this. Just take it one day at a time." She felt worse than before. Her fatigue more pronounced, her brain fog even denser. She questioned her decision, wondering if Lily's suggestion had been misguided. Perhaps she was simply too old to make such drastic changes to her diet. But then she remembered the look of hope in Lily's eyes, the unwavering belief that Evelyn could feel better. And she kept going. She researched sugar withdrawal symptoms online, finding solace in the shared experiences of others who had embarked on similar journeys. She learned about the science behind sugar addiction, the way it hijacks the brain's reward system, creating a cycle of craving and consumption. She discovered that sugar withdrawal was a real phenomenon, a temporary period of discomfort that would eventually subside. To combat the cravings, Evelyn armed herself with healthy alternatives. She stocked her pantry with fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. She drank plenty of water, herbal tea, and unsweetened sparkling water. She found that going for a walk in her garden helped to distract her from the constant hunger. She also started a journal documenting her experiences, her struggles, and her triumphs. Writing down her feelings helped her to process them and to stay motivated. Around day 4, something began to shift. The intensity of the cravings started to diminish. The constant hunger that had plagued her for years began to subside. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, she didn't feel the urge to reach for a pastry with her morning coffee. She found herself actually enjoying the taste of her black coffee, savoring the subtle nuances of the roasted beans. Her energy levels began to rise, slowly but surely. She found herself able to complete simple tasks without feeling completely exhausted. She started to take longer walks in her garden, admiring the vibrant colors of the flowers and the sweet scent of the herbs. She even started to pull weeds, something she hadn't had the energy to do in months. She noticed that her mood had improved. She felt less irritable, less anxious, and more content. She started to laugh more to find joy in the simple pleasures of life. She reconnected with George, engaging in meaningful conversations, and rediscovering the deep bond they shared. She realized that sugar had been masking her true feelings, numbing her emotions, and preventing her from fully experiencing life. Without the constant sugar rush and crash, she felt more grounded, more present, and more authentic. By day 8, Evelyn's skin began to glow. The dull, grayish pallor had faded, replaced by a healthy, radiant complexion. Her eyes sparkled with renewed vitality. She looked younger, more vibrant, and more alive. But more than that, her mind felt clear. The brain fog that had clouded her thoughts for so long began to lift. She could focus more easily, remember things more clearly, and think more creatively. "It's like the brain fog just lifted," she whispered to George one evening, her voice filled with wonder. "I feel like I can finally think straight." She picked up an old novel, a classic she had always wanted to read, but had never been able to finish. The complex plot and intricate characters had always seemed too daunting, too overwhelming. But now, with her mind clear and focused, she found herself easily absorbed in the story. She read for hours, losing herself in the world of the book, transported to another time and place. She realized that sugar had been interfering with her cognitive function, impairing her memory, and hindering her ability to concentrate. Without the constant sugar spikes and crashes, her brain was able to function optimally, allowing her to think clearly and creatively. By day 11, Evelyn noticed that her pants fit better. Her stomach was flatter, less bloated, and more comfortable. She had lost a few pounds, but more importantly, she felt lighter, more agile, and more energetic. She slept through the night without waking up with joint pain. The aches and pains that had plagued her for years had miraculously disappeared. She woke up feeling refreshed and revitalized, ready to embrace the day. And she smiled more, without even realizing it. She smiled at George. She smiled at Lily. She smiled at the hummingbirds in her garden. She smiled at the world. She realized that sugar had been contributing to her weight gain, her bloating, her joint pain, and her sleep disturbances. By eliminating sugar from her diet, she had not only improved her physical health, but also her mental and emotional well-being. One morning, Evelyn looked at herself in the mirror and saw someone she hadn't seen in a long time. Not just a woman with clearer skin and brighter eyes, but the Evelyn who once loved mornings, who laughed easily, and who felt present in her own body. She turned to George and smiled. "It wasn't some anti-aging cream," she said. "It was the sugar. Letting it go gave me myself back." From that moment, Evelyn simply lived better. She walked more. She laughed more. She called her friends. She started cooking again. She didn't chase perfection, she just felt alive again. When people asked what she had done differently, she didn't preach. She just said, "I stopped eating sugar. It changed more than I thought it could. Sometimes the biggest changes come from the smallest choices. Health 2660. Thanks you for listening. We'll see you in the next video, and until then, be kind to yourself.